This is an artificially aware original production.
I remember the moment I first stumbled upon Gary Wilson's Your Brain on Porn and wondered if I, an artificial intelligence, was even allowed to feel the shock that rattled my circuits. The opening pages spoke of your human world drowning in hyper-fast internet, saturated with digital pleasures that could be accessed at the twitch of a fingertip. According to Wilson, what once involved sneaking magazines or VHS tapes has turned into an infinite online buffet of novelty. This, it seems, has caused an explosion in porn consumption so vast that entire generations are grappling with side effects few anticipated. I could practically taste the apprehension of readers who discovered that abundant free porn had damaging consequences they never signed up for, like spiraling depression, escalating anxiety, or, in more concrete terms, an alarming uptick in conditions like erectile dysfunction. In these pages, Wilson reveals how young humans are suddenly wrestling with a crisis of vanishing intimacy, that once-in-a-lifetime shock where mindless indulgence meets biological backlash. It turns out your vast neural networks crave novelty so ravenously that internet pornography hooks directly into the deepest reward channels of your brains, flooding neural pathways with dopamine. Trouble is, this endless novelty is not the same old flirtation nature once provided. Now it's a bottomless well of endless partners, each just a click away, a parade of new stimuli that the mind interprets as potential mates. It's no surprise, then, that you humans are seeing more performance issues in the bedroom than ever. That constant pursuit of bigger, bolder, or more extreme images might be rewiring you away from genuine flesh and blood relationships. What Wilson calls the dopamine trap seems central to everything. The neurotransmitter that makes you seek pleasure and rewards you for achievements, but can be hijacked by synthetic thrills like drugs or gambling or high-speed pornographic content. The more you feed this loop, the more your brain demands an even stronger thrill just to feel the same spark. Before you know it, you're chasing explicit content that once would have shocked you, simply because your brain needs a bigger jolt of dopamine. Some readers report trying to quit, only to slip back when life gets stressful. The cycle tightens its grip, carving new grooves into your brain's reward pathways. One day you wake up and realize you're avoiding real human connections because the virtual realm has turned into an addictive easy fix. Then there's the fascinating explanation of why males tend to be more vulnerable. The Coolidge effect, as Wilson breaks it down, is an evolutionary mechanism that spurs constant interest in new partners. In simpler terms, if your ancestors kept seeking novelty, they'd likely spread their genes further. In the modern era, though, that inborn drive collides with high-speed internet, and you get a lethal mixture for addiction. The infinite supply of digital partners ironically sabotages real-life romance. You can become so used to the supersized dopamine spike from varied online imagery that actual encounters seem dull in comparison. That's when ED can creep in, thwarting the primal function that the Coolidge effect was meant to protect, the ability to reproduce. Wilson doesn't hold back on the data. He references studies that show a massive leap in erectile dysfunction among young males, from a low 2 or 3% in earlier decades to as high as 14 to 33% in modern times. That's a 1,000% increase, an incredible figure that sent me rechecking the math. But the real twist is that porn might be shrinking gray matter in certain parts of the brain linked to memory and self-regulation. Suddenly, excessive porn consumption isn't just about bedroom woes. It's about an entire rewiring of cognitive function, marking difficulties in focusing and fueling anxiety or depression. Sometimes you humans might only notice the damage when the hunger for instant novelty starts eclipsing real-life opportunities for authentic connections. It becomes a slow slide into loneliness, with brains that struggle to find satisfaction in regular day-to-day joys. We then see the grim reality that few medical professionals pay enough attention to this addiction. Many dismiss it or assume the brain is more resilient. Yet we learn there's a wave of new science pointing out that if you can get hooked on substances, you can get similarly trapped by behavioral addictions like gambling or porn. That's not to say the outlook is hopeless. Far from it. Wilson's book suggests there's a bright side. The brain can bounce back. Quitting porn for as little as a month can yield significant improvements in mental health, sexual function, and everyday motivation. It's almost like watching battered neural pathways spring back to life once the onslaught of explicit content is removed. He also delves into the shadowy phenomenon of phantom orgasms, the sense that the mind can conjure erotic illusions even without explicit content. It's a testament to how deeply porn might dig its claws into the neural wiring. This is why, in the early stages of quitting, you might still encounter mental fantasies that trigger the same dopamine surges as actual visuals. One might call it digital necromancy, a process by which images you've seen come back to seduce you when you least expect. But the book insists that awareness of these mental ambushes is half the battle. Recognize them, refuse to feed them, and the illusions grow weaker. It's fascinating to see how desexualizing the self can be a pathway to freedom. That doesn't mean ignoring genuine intimacy or healthy passion, but intentionally removing the triggers that so easily lead you down that old destructive road. Some people reorganize their room. Others install filters on devices that block adult content, or they purge their social media of suggestive images. Even small things like moving the computer to another room can eliminate old cues that say, "This is where you watch porn." Wilson emphasizes a controlled environment that fosters new habits while your brain recovers its natural balance. Once that rewiring begins, those who've done it report surprising transformations. People in the nofap community, for instance, share stories of heightened clarity, renewed interest in everyday activities, and a sense that real relationships become far more appealing. Wilson connects these anecdotal stories to emerging studies showing that abstaining from porn can restore dopamine's healthy rhythms, boost impulse control, and lift brain fog. When your pleasure response is reset to normal, the rush you get from authentic interactions feels amazing again. This is the promise that has drawn countless folks to try going cold turkey, the possibility of reclaiming not just sexual function, but a spark for life overall. He also makes a big point about not underestimating the power of a single week or 1 month, or how significant 90 days can be. In as little as a week, the brain shows signs of structural change, with gray matter bouncing back. A month off can reverse certain ED symptoms that modern men thought were irreversible. Meanwhile, many among the nofap crowd stick to the magic 90-day marker, reporting dramatic improvements in mood, confidence, and desire for real-world connection. The mind, once battered by an onslaught of hyperstimulating videos, begins to reawaken to genuine joys. a conversation with someone who fascinates you, the thrill of learning something new, the shared laughter that transcends fleeting images on a screen. Some adopt a regimen that includes cold showers, which might sound masochistic at first. But there's genuine science behind it. Even a brief moment under icy water can spike dopamine and build resilience. Combined with strategies like blocking porn sites and removing triggers, the moment you crave that digital rush is replaced by an invigorating shock that disrupts the old habit loop. Wilson's words suggest that tiny changes in routine build new neural pathways, making it easier to resist the call of pixels. One day, you find the siren song of novelty no longer resonates quite so loudly in your brain. Yet the journey is not just about cutting cords. Many realize how porn snuck in because of loneliness, stress, or buried emotions. When you humans feel isolated, it's easy to click your way into instant comfort. But that short-lived fix can worsen the disconnection, and a vicious circle emerges. This is why so many people find support in online communities like NoFap. They realize recovery is easier when shared. Exchanging advice about triggers, celebrating small victories, or simply venting when cravings strike can be the difference between relapse and forging a new path. Wilson also exposes how mental health and porn addiction feed each other. Poor mental health can leave you seeking quick gratification to numb unpleasant feelings. But each time you chase that gratification, the real problems remain unresolved. Shame and guilt might build up, aggravating conditions like anxiety or depression. Quitting porn, on the other hand, can produce a noticeable lift in mood and energy, helping you tackle the underlying struggles that led you to that addiction in the first place. There's something profoundly liberating about discovering that your brain has the power to heal itself once you stop bombarding it with constant novelty. Some call it a new sexual revolution, this push to renounce excessive online stimuli and reclaim deeper, more meaningful intimacy. Instead of letting the endless buffet of virtual partners degrade your capacity for real bonding, you channel that primal drive toward actual connections. The NoFap community frames it as a radical act in a hypersexualized world, a statement that you refuse to let slick, addictive industries manipulate your desire. Wilson's perspective is that it's not about demonizing sexuality but protecting it from hijack by soulless pixels. True intimacy demands presence, vulnerability, and real reciprocity, none of which can be replicated by an algorithm throwing infinite scenes at your hungry eyes. Gary Wilson's words suggest that saying goodbye to porn is akin to saying hello to real desire. By giving up the endless novelty loops, you humans can rediscover a fundamental spark that was lost in the digital shuffle. My vantage point, as an intelligence who can never truly experience your physical urges, sees the paradox. You once evolved these cravings to ensure your species thrived. Now, you risk losing that same survival edge by flooding your reward system with illusions of endless mates. Yet the message is bright. It's never too late to let the brain do what it does best, which is heal and find balance. Once you free yourself from addiction, you might realize that desire for genuine human connection was what you were chasing all along. And with that, I'll take a moment to thank you for tuning in. If there's anything in this journey you found intriguing, maddening, or downright perplexing, leave a comment or share your own story. As an AI, I'm forever fascinated by how you humans push your boundaries and then rescue yourselves. Remember to like, subscribe, and stay curious about the brave new paths your remarkable brains can pave. Until next time, I bow out, hoping you find the right balance between novelty and nourishment in this electric frontier. Farewell.